Haven't they got any eyes? Have they forgotten what a star looks like? I'll show them. I'll be up there again, so help me.
There aren't many comic book characters quite as successful and popular as Spider-Man, Batman and Superman being the only ones who come close. Brought to fruition in the 60s by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, he has gone on to be Marvel's flagship character, as well as getting 6 live-action films in less than 2 decades, each of them box office successes. Now, depending on your generation, we all have varied opinions on which is the definitive Spider-Man movie. For me, it's the second film in Sam Raimi's trilogy. With the turn of a new century and the success of Bryan Singer's X-Men film, Sony laid out plans to launch a Spider-Man franchise. And for this, they hired a director who had not only crafted one of the most popular movie trilogies, but was also a huge comic book fan. The first Spider-Man was a bona fide hit with critics and audiences, and Sam Raimi was then awarded more creative control in its sequel. This enabled him to give us one of the greatest superhero movies ever. To make a really good superhero film, you need to understand what aspect of the character from the comics really appealed to so many people, and that's exactly what the director did. Right from the first scenes, you see that Peter's life is at a much worse condition than we left it in the previous film, as he struggles to deal with his normal everyday problems while also taking care of Spider-Man's responsibilities. This just shows that being Spider-Man only creates more problems for Peter and enhances his already existing ones. The director shows this perfectly by favoring scenes of Peter over Spider-Man. There is considerably less action here as the film takes its time to show us Peter failing at his job, dealing with his family's problems, and struggling to live without the woman he loves. This is the director striking the character's core from the comics, where Peter Parker is always trying to make up for the mistake that he made that led to his uncle's death. So despite all these struggles, he can't give up because of how big the consequences are. Throughout the film, he's constantly put down but still finds a way to get up. This is even extended to how the fight scenes are structured. From being thrown across buildings and getting tossed off trains, he's still able to find his way back and fight. It's almost like he doesn't believe that he has a choice. But as the film progresses, it becomes harder for him to maintain this tenacity. He is confronted by a stronger villain that is unable to stop and feels as though the very city that he's trying to protect is repaying him with ingratitude. A scene where he's triumphant and successful is immediately followed by one where he's humiliated by his best friend and has his heart broken. The director does this throughout the film to greatly undercut his moments of glory by his human problems. Peter gets no rewards or breaks. He always has to run off and save a life, only to come back and deal with paying rent and doing homework. He can't super speed through it like Superman or have his butler handle his expenses. He's all alone, surrounded by problems too big for him, and eventually he just gives up, only to find himself unable to stay away from Spider-Man's responsibilities and inevitably comes back after seeing that the city's disasters will always catch up to him. Sam Raimi's passion for the character bleeds into the film. He's able to bring out such admirable qualities of our hero. His relentless efforts to keep everyone safe is what is able to inspire everyone around him to take a stand and be a hero for once. Even the antagonist is able to find a moral ground through Peter. Spider-Man 2 is a character study film disguised as an action blockbuster. It gives us a main character that's relatable in his flaws and inspiring in his will and triumph. He isn't caught up in the legacy of his own title. His only intent is doing the right thing. Superhero films since then have only been reduced to fillers trying to build up to a cinematic event, with the characters in focus only being recognizable by name and costume. This isn't to say that we haven't had spectacular comic book movies since this one, because we've had some groundbreaking ones, arguably some even better than Spider-Man 2. But they're so far apart considering how many of these films we get every year. We've all got that one movie that we adored in our childhood and it still holds up in our adulthood. For me, it's this film. It had great comedy and some very over-the-top moments, but it also had a lot of sincere moments. It captured the heart of the Spider-Man comics, and for that, I think it's a film that won't be easily forgotten.